Other round of fixtures in the English Premier League. And boy, what an exciting run of games that we've just had. Welcome to Game On, your fastest growing show on YouTube. And I'm really excited for today's show. This is going to be different because you're not going to see all the regular guys today, but I'm not doing this show alone. So I've got my guy, who he's like my brother. I've known him for over 20 years. And Femi, welcome to Game On.
Hey, Eddie Montana. What a pleasure to be here with you today, talking of beautiful game, the favorite sport in the world, the most amazing uh, sport that we all love. It's just a pleasure, Eddie. Really glad to be back with you. I know FaZe and Kali are missing today, but they send all their love to the guys. So every one of you, thank you for joining us. Wow. I'm sure Kali and FaZe are with us in spirit, but we are here in body and in spirit, and we're here to give you the best of us this afternoon. So, Eddie, back to you, Mike.
Absolutely, we're here in body and spirit. And you know what? With Kali and Face out of the picture, it means that we can talk for a little bit longer because
The timers are off, isn't it?
the
So
timers are off, right? We
let's
can
get
really
this
get
rolling, man.
into we can really get
Let's
into
give
it.
everybody a warm welcome, and then let's enjoy the ride together. It's gonna be thrilling. It's gonna be
Absolutely,
fun. There's lots to talk about, isn't it?
absolutely. Lots to talk about, and no better place to start than the big game over the weekend. Arsenal versus Liverpool. And it was a 2-2 game. Arsenal showed a lot of resilience, but yet, again, another game that they were leading, on the verge of taking 3 points and ended up taking 1 point. Femi, was that a missed opportunity for Arsenal, especially with the injury pile-up that they're having in the squad? Was that a missed opportunity for Arsenal?
I mean, you probably say 2 days before the game, if you had a 2-2 put in front of every Arsenal fan in the world, you would have signed up to it, isn't it? And then on the day, you saw the lineup and you thought, wow, okay, we've got a decent back four. And we talked about it last week, didn't we? That they have enough time from Wednesday to Sunday to prepare for the game. And we
Yeah.
thought Ben White was going to go into the middle of that back four. And that's exactly what Arteta did. Guys, you're not the only ones watching. Arteta is watching us. He shows how important we are. He knows we know our stuff. And for the first time in a long time, Ben White, when we recommended that he play in the middle, yes, if you go and watch the last show, you will find we did recommend that Ben White should come in the middle. And that's exactly what the manager did. And thankfully, we had Jurgen Timber back at left back. We thought maybe Calafori may make it, but that Timber made it was just amazing.
Mm.
So when I saw the lineup, I knew this was a team that could match United. I mean, sorry, match Liverpool. But when you looked at this at the bench, that was where you knew the game may be won or lost because Liverpool had, a quality player in that
Apple,
what's his name Gapo to bring on,
Apple,
but
yeah.
also have that Soboslai on the bench as well.
Yeah.
Exactly, a few quality players, and I kind of like thought, okay, this may be won or lost from the bench, and it proved to be because even on the pitch, we couldn't really keep our players on the pitch for 90 minutes. Gabriel was a massive loss, as you can tell. Kivior is a decent player, but he won't do the job like Gabriel would do. And then Timber succumbed to cramp in the end, having not played 90 minutes for a long time. So he's not been around for a while. So overall, it was a missed opportunity given that we were leading and we could have definitely pushed a little more at the start of that second half to get a third goal. Because if you don't score and you sit back, you're inviting pressure. It's only a matter of time. And yes, I thought it was a missed opportunity on the day. But before the game, I would have signed up to a 2-2 draw, Eddie. So overall, not the game is not like you don't win any championships in October, never ever, and you don't lose championships in October except you're Manchester United or some other team who's just way off the top. 5 points away from Man City, I think We're right in it, and we've just got to be able to knuckle down and start to build the fitness of our team members back up. And hopefully, we'll get everybody back fit. And with Saka fit, look at what Saka did on the day. Wasn't it absolutely magnificent day?
Amazing, amazing. Femi, I have to agree with you. Agree with you. I think it was a missed opportunity. I think, you look at Liverpool, what they've done this season. They've had the luck of the green, with in terms of their fixture. But you play who's in front of you. And I think, coming into that game, like you rightly said, no one knew what makeup Arsenal was going to show up with, right? There were lots of doubts about who was going to play. There were probably people waking up in the middle of the night thinking about, the back line and Kivio and Zinchenko and all of that. So obviously, there was a massive boost, to the crowd when the lineup was announced and Timber and Saka had made. To be fair, there was a lot of stuff going on in social media that was highlighting that those two could potentially play. And you saw that in the crowd, right? The first half, the crowd really, really got up for the game. And, we have to talk about Saka. He's absolutely brilliant. I think for me, he's one of Arsenal's most important players. He gives us balance in attack, and he's just dangerous, right? You know that when he has the ball, something would happen. And it showed, right, in the second half, because it started to wane a little bit. The fact that he has been injured, just coming back to the team. But Femi, we got a chance to look at Liverpool, right? So before this game, we're looking at Liverpool from afar, looking at what Slot was doing, looking at how they were playing, but we got a chance to look at them up close and personal. What is your impression of Liverpool going forward? Are they the real deal, or do you think, even with Arsenal's depleted squad, they still could not come in and assert themselves?
I mean, to be fair, I think you want to look at our mentality first. Yes,
Mm,
you want to, if you're going to win championships, you want to test yourself against the best and come up victorious. And that's what Arsenal didn't do last season. You know, we went to City and we drew 1-1.
mm,
We drew 0-0, actually, sorry. We went to Liverpool, we drew 2-2. And if you look at Liverpool as well, the reality is when they came up against Arsenal, I mean, they played Chelsea and you thought they were great. And they played other teams, like you said. You have to beat what is in front of you. Even Forest went there and beat them at home. So you're looking at them and thinking, are they the real deal? They've done well in the Champions League. They've won all 3 games. They're doing well in the Premier League. They're a point off the top. So they're a decent side. But we all know that they've got that same set of players from when Klopp was there. So there's continuity. I would not rule them out of that race long term, but I was concerned that even against an Arsenal side that wasn't our best team, they didn't look commanding at all. The game was there for us to win. And only when we ceded the game over to them in the second half did they actually start to take a hold of the game. So I think they're not the real deal yet, because if you're going to the home of your rivals and they've got a depleted team and their first 11, you can tell Saka was not 100% fit. Timber was not 100% match fit as well. It's just a shame that, I mean, we even had Saliba out, as you can tell, and we had a makeshift team altogether. That wasn't, I mean, no Odegaard, who is always our prime guy, isn't it? So I'm just thinking we were there for the taking before the game. And even on the day, even though we fielded a much stronger team, they were absolutely battered by us in the first half. We battered them. So if you're thinking they're there for the long term, yes, because of the history of the players, I mean, you've got, if you got Salah, you got a chance. And then Van Dijk at the back, he should have had a red card on the day, I believe. But he won't get a red card every week, would he? So overall, I'm thinking, did they show themselves as worthy contenders for the Premier League crown? Absolutely not. But given the quality they have, especially going forward and at the back as well, that back five is not a bad back five at all. Because
mm.
if Keller comes in for Becker, for Allison, he will do a good job. And then, I mean, you won't find a better right back than Trent, who also has a great backup guy in Conor Bradley. At the left-hand side there, they've got a great Robertson there, who, although came up short against Saka, but has a great deputy in Tsimikas. So they've got two players for each position there at the back, especially in the middle. They already have that trust in Konate and Van Dijk, and you know that Jared Kwanzaa can come and do a good job as well for any of the two of them. So do they have a decent defense? Yes, and you win championships on defenses. And in the middle, they've got a lot of talent in there. Nathan Jones, no, Curtis Jones, sorry, is looking like a real talent. Then you've got Endo on the bench. You've got Szoboszlai on the bench,
Yeah.
Gravenberch, and then the other boys in the middle are doing an amazing job. McAllister. Going forward, they've got 6 players who can just turn on the style anytime.
Yeah.
So are they, and they're lucky with injuries this season so far as well. So are they a team that can go the long haul? Yes, they can, but will they get enough points to finish ahead of Arsenal and Man City? I don't think so, given what I saw on Sunday, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool just reminds me of back in the day, back in school, right? You have this guy who, you do the test results and he gets like amazing scores. And but then you're like, wait, hold on a second. How did this guy do so well, in this test? But you look at all the others, tests and stuff like that, and you're like, you're not quite sure. He doesn't seem to participate in the class. He doesn't seem to answer the question when the teachers are asking it. But then you're thinking, well, hold on a second, how did he get the result? So you're still not quite sure, right? Of where Liverpool is. And I think I agree with you. I think Liverpool are going to have some standard tests. They've not really had adversity this season, in terms of injuries. They've not had any red cards. They've not had to deal with what Arsenal, has dealt with, in the first 9 games. So I think it's still interesting to see how things pan out. I really want to see them, against, teams like Aston Villa. I want to see them against teams like Newcastle, against Manchester City. Let's see, how this Liverpool team, shakes up. But, let's turn, our attention to another game that was built up to be, a top four, type game. This was Chelsea against Newcastle. Um, I know Chelsea for me, when I'm looking at them right now, I'm finding it very difficult to really, really put my finger on them. They've got some quality players. We all know what Cole Palmer is doing. Nicholas Jackson seems to be able to find a way of scoring, so he's no longer that, Emil Heskey type, player. No offense to Mr. Heskey, but he seems like, he's not just a center forward, just there as a center forward, but now he's putting goals in behind the net. So when you look at Chelsea, look at that result against Newcastle, you could say that that game was really evenly balanced. Is it pure luck for Chelsea, or is this signs of progress?
I think a mixture of both, even though I would probably say a sign of progress around 80-90%. But you need the luck of the green, you need the rub of the green, don't you? You need luck. We're talking about Liverpool having a lot of luck with no red cards, no injuries. The first injury they had was probably Jota and then maybe Alisson, but they've got a great backup goalkeeper. So they haven't had the adversity we've dealt with. So Chelsea at the minute, I mean, whoever thought Nicholas Jackson was going to be scoring goals? Wasn't Mikel Obi still talking about him earlier in the season, saying it's just there to fill in the numbers? And suddenly, he's kept Nkuku out of the team altogether, and he's scoring goals every week. He's got this great understanding with Cole Palmer. And also, when you look at their style of play, they look a little more confident, a little more solid. The manager seems to have gotten his teeth into them to say, look, guys, you're a young team, you can do well. And they got their captain back now as well. So that's always a boost, isn't it? Cucurella had a great European Championships. He's back in the team as well. So overall, if you look at their team, they've got this same team last season. There's not many new additions other than Jadon Sancho, who is definitely, I mean, we've not even had the Brazilian coming, the one they bought at all from Atletico. So what's his name, Silva or so. So I'm probably looking at them and saying it's more the manager's job rather than the players. And if the manager can get the job right, it means there are ingredients there. But I'm also going to stop and say, Tottenham Hotspurs last season, when the new manager came, Hanji, they were all talking about Hanji ball, and they thought they had won the league in October, isn't it? exactly this time last season. So it's a sign of progress, but um, I'm also going to need to check them out. Against Man City, first game of the season, Man City totally destroyed them. So let's see if they can keep this momentum going. They're going to come to play against Arsenal. I know they've had Liverpool and they lost. So again, you've got to test yourself against the best. They've lost to Liverpool. They've lost to Man City. Now, if you're winning games against the smaller teams, you will be there and thereabouts. That's why they're in the top four at the minute. But to really, really kick on to the next level, you've got to match the best. That's where Chelsea comes short at the minute. And I think that's the next level they want to get to. That's not going to happen very quickly. We all know it's a work in progress. There's not many play managers that will come in and turn a team around very shortly or very quickly. The only person I think that has done it in Premier League history is, of course, the incredible Claudio Ranieri at Leicester. Everybody else, even Pep, Pep finished fourth or fifth in his first season. You're not going to just come in and turn the team around, all around. And the slot at the minute is doing a great job, but we all know he came into a team that finished third and almost challenged for the league last season. And he hasn't lost any key players at all. So I'm thinking, are they the real deal yet? No, Eddie. But is there signs of progress? Absolutely. And they're getting the rubber green because you would not have thought uh, Nicholas Jackson was going to turn into a great goal scorer very quickly, and he's just turned into one. So if you're scoring goals and you're keeping them out at the back, you're not a bad team at all, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, I like what I'm seeing in Chelsea. Chelsea. Chelsea for me, feels like this new car. When you get a new car, you're still working out, where everything is, where everything works. Sometimes you press this button, you think it's the AC. No, actually, it's the lights come on, or or or, or you're thinking, oh, is this the indicator light? And then you press it, and then the wipers, come on. So I think you're absolutely right. There seems like there's a making of a team there. There is some potential. Cole Palmer, Madueke, they look like they're gonna, terrorize a lot of players. But I don't want to ignore the frailties of Newcastle, because Newcastle, they've been letting in lots of soft goals, recently. And, it feels like Newcastle feel a little bit different. I don't know. They feel like they're kind of stuck in this no man's land, you know, there was the excitement about the new ownership, that came into Newcastle, but
Yeah.
that hasn't been
And they have Champions
reflected.
League football immediately.
Yeah, and then they had Champions League football. But then after that, it doesn't seem like they've actually made that next step forward. They've kind of stood still, and the likes of Aston Villa seem like they've just overtaken
Absolutely.
Newcastle. So I think there was a bit about Newcastle in that game as well. And yes, we've got to give it to Chelsea. They're finding ways to win. Their players are, showing a bit of promise. So I think that's one to watch. You need to see how Chelsea kind of evolve the rest of the season. Like you said, they've lost against big teams that they played against. Liverpool, they lost against Man City. So they have a big game which we're going to preview, much later. So let's not, get into that now. Finally, I want us to have a reaction to another game from last weekend, and that's West Ham, versus Manchester United. West Ham, I think people going into that game, may have thought there was a chance for West Ham, but you always felt, well, Man United have the players to actually go and win at West Ham, especially with West Ham. They've had a horrid, form, going into that game. But West Ham did the business. They won 2-1. I think we'll talk about some of the incidents that happened in that game. So, what is going on with Manchester United? Obviously, Ten Hag has gone, so we do have to acknowledge that at the time of this recording. And there is talks about Ruben Amorim, coming in, and all of that. But first of all, let's just talk about the game. When you looked at that game, West Ham, Manchester United, you could argue in the first half, Manchester United had a lot of chances and could have been two, goals up. They didn't take their chances. And then the whole thing about the Premier League. You don't take your chances, you're gonna get punished, right? So they got punished. What do you think about Manchester United? Was that just a showing of players that didn't trust the manager? Obviously, we've seen the manager go. Or do you think there's a much more deeper problem there with the squad?
Again, I'm going to say it's a mixture of both because the manager sets the standards and sets the expectations. And if you're getting through on goal, like Diego Dallo did, and you have confidence, you're going to put the ball in the back of the net. That's something a teenager would have done. That's something my young sons would have done on the pitch of play. You've beaten the goalkeeper, you've got an open net to kick the ball into, no pressure on you. There's no point in trying to smash the ball, you just put it in. And that clearly tells you a player and a team lacking in confidence and clarity and that abundance of spirit that you need to win games. And if you're going to West Ham, who, like you rightly said, about a torrid season so far, we've touched Lopetegui being a former Spain manager, a former Real Madrid manager, a former Valencia manager, someone super experienced and who has also coached. He's managed Wolves. So he understands the Premier League. You've the thought coming into West Ham and buying the kind of players he has bought as well, and the pedigree of West Ham players from last season and the previous season when they won the European Cup. You thought it was the perfect opportunity. They've been absolutely peaceful. You know, Bowen has been there and thereabouts. Kudus has helped, but they've not really set the league on fire. In fact, they had to change their goalkeeper for that game as well, just to try and do something new. So I don't think United were looking like a team, you know, that had everything all sorted. It was more like a team lacking in absolute confidence and faith and belief in themselves. And that's why they had where they are in the league. And they say when it rains, it pours, isn't it? They were totally out of luck that even after what would have been a decent 1-1 result, not particularly decent, but if you don't get beat or get beaten and you take a point, you move away. It's a point on the road, isn't it? Guess what? They had a penalty that should never been a penalty, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and that's when you know your luck is out. So
yeah.
there's that element of okay, things are not going away. We'll take the point to travel and go and find another game. But when you're losing that kind of game, you know the manager's luck had totally run out, and that's why we brought Ruben Amorim, who's now going to cost them a lot of money. Sporting won 10 million for him, which is about it's over 8 million pounds, 8.4 million or so. That is now he's also got a 30-day notice period in his contract. So he's not going to be able to come until the end of November. The only thing Man United can do is pay another the other 5 million euros, which is over 4 million again, to get the 3 assistant coaches to come in with him and then pay that extra compensation or allow him to stay there for 30 days. And there's no point in getting a manager that's going to come in a month's time. This is not England where they're getting a manager and they're open. He's going to join on the 1st of January, Thomas Tuchel. So overall, Man United, I think the luck is not where it is at the minute, and the manager as well. Look, he's looked like a beating manager, hasn't he, all season, Eddie? So he's not. He's going to look back on his time there and remember the trophies if he wants to concentrate on the positives. But he's not going to be happy when he looks at how he's panned out. And then the guy is brought in to come and support him. Hopefully, get the strikers firing on all cylinders. It's not worked out, and now that guy is going to be managing the team in the short term. So Eddie, it's time actually. Gary Neville said it right, and I'm going to repeat what he said. Was anybody surprised that he was sacked? That's the question.
No, I don't think anyone was surprised. It felt like a dead man walking for a very long time. People could argue that, why wasn't this decision made, at the end of the season, last season? Because I'm not sure, how much 9 games, gave them. There was nothing that they were going to see in these 9 games that they didn't see last season, in terms of how the team was responding to the manager, and in terms of where the direction that Manchester United were going. But you can also say, well, at least they've made a decision now. Um, I mean, Ruben Amorim, is it really a risk? I mean, I know that young managers are becoming in vogue now. You look at what Arsenal did with Arteta, Chelsea has done with Maresca, as well. And they seem to be a love now for, not your high profile managers, you're now looking at those young, potential. The man is only 39 years old. This is the second club that he's managed in Sporting. He wasn't like he was a all the fantastic player when he was in his playing days. I think he played for Benfica. at some point. So this is a big club. Manchester United is a big club. He's coming into the big club and going straight in with pressure, right? What do you think about Ruben Amorim coming in? Is he a fit for Manchester United? Is it the right kind of personality that they need, especially after they just had Ten Hag?
And that's a really interesting question, Eddie, because if you look at his record, I mean, he was in the Champions League, what is it, last season,
Hmm.
and he played against Arsenal. And we saw how difficult he made the games over two legs
Yeah.
for Arsenal. And frankly, um, he could have won, if you see what I
Mhm.
mean.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him and saying, if you coach in Portugal, we all know Portugal is a rich country for coaching talent.
Yeah.
The great Jose Mourinho came out of there, didn't he? He was at FC Porto. We've seen a lot of very good managers. Look at Nottingham Forest. They're enjoying a rich vein of form now under yet another Portuguese manager, always really getting the maximum out of those players.
Hmm.
And I mean, they went to Liverpool and they won away at Liverpool.
Yeah.
They're
I think
very,
they're fifth.
yeah, I was going to say they're in the European places at the minute. So, and that team looked dead and buried under
It's
was it
Cooper.
Simon Cooper?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve
under
Cooper.
Cooper last season. So if you look at I mean, and it's not like it was a one-off thing. Suddenly, he managed Wolves and got the maximum out of them as well. No,
That's
no,
true.
his experience as Spurs
Got them
never
into
really panned
Europe.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never really worked out for him as Spurs, especially not because of his pedigree, but because of the problems they had. We all know Spurs are not exactly a team anybody should be managing to get themselves the next to the next stage in their career. They've lost Mourinho, Conte, and some of the greatest managers anyway. Spurs. So you shouldn't judge anybody because of Spurs. But what he's done in England and what he's doing right now, and what the other managers have done as well, shows you that well, Portuguese managers are there and they're doing a great job. So if he goes in, frankly, into Man United, like it is being, I mean, even Sporting said they believe it's a done deal. It's a matter of when he goes now, not if he goes. I think that youthful energy is very useful for top teams these days. Pep, even though he's over 50 now, we all know how he went into Barcelona and then Bayern and even Man City. We've seen what Arteta has done. We've seen what Enzo Maresca is doing. And so Eddie Howe is proven to be an excellent manager. So you see all the young managers across the board, and you found that they've really come in and they've done a great job. So maybe for once, again, it's about time for United to actually go and find that script that's working for so many other clubs. So I think because of the football training that is had and the closeness to some of those great managers in terms of the Portuguese school of producing top managers. I mean, what have they got to lose? It couldn't get any worse than under Ten Hag, could they, Eddie?
No, it couldn't get any worse. But I mean, if you listen to a lot of the United legends, this is not the kind of manager they were looking for. They were potentially, looking for a Nagels, or maybe Xavi. I've had, mentions of that in the past. Definitely no one was waiting for Gareth Southgate to walk through the door, for Manchester United. I mean, you were talking about the complications with Ruben, signing for Manchester United. Maybe, it might be in his best interest to get that job very quickly, right? Because they play Arsenal in the Champions League and then they play Man City in the Champions League as well. So maybe you don't want to ruin profile that you have as a manager going to Manchester United because I think the fans will be very quickly on your back if you lose against Arsenal and lose against Man City, two teams that you're going to have to play in the Premier League. So that would have been, fascinating. I think he would probably want that deal to be wrapped up very, very quickly before those
Yeah,
games.
he's got City very much, and I think he can probably use that as that last hurrah to the fans to say, amazing. Maybe rouse the players for one last occasion if they really love him, and they must have loved him for him to
But
have
if
kept
they
them
lose
going as well.
5-0, if they lose
Then it's
5-0 against
Man United will be they'll be
uh,
weighing up their options.
Because when Ten Hag came, there was a lot of hype about him. Let's be honest. Everyone was
Absolutely.
talking about,
Didn't he say that eras come to an end in terms of Man City and
yeah,
Liverpool?
yeah,
But
exactly.
his
Um,
own era has come to an end very quickly. Imagine when you're thinking other people's eras are going to come to an end, and then you can't even get yours off the ground. So, yeah, there was a lot
so
of talk
I
about
mean,
how well
I,
he was going to
I
do.
think the scorecard is going to be out, right? I think people are going to measure him, at the end of the season.
And that's why you have to credit Liverpool for going back to Holland, despite the fact that it didn't work out for United with Ten Hag, and they've gone to get Arne Slot, and it's looking like a masterstroke at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know what that reminds me of, that Mourinho's analogy of eggs, omelette and eggs. And when it was like you have class one egg, class two eggs, and
Yeah,
if you go to
you go to
Waitrose,
Waitrose, you get the class A ones,
you get,
but you don't know what you're gonna. In other
but
ones, you don't know what you're gonna get when it
well, you
opens
don't
up.
know what you're gonna get,
It
whether
opens
you're
up
gonna
like that.
get good omelets.
Mhm.
So hey, you've got to say, I think that the job in Manchester United is more than just on the pitch. I think I
100%.
think there
Yes.
is a lot of culture that needs to be adjusted with that club. You need someone that can go in and sell his vision, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well.
And
Because
remember what Ronaldo was saying about the Carrington training ground as well, that
yeah,
they haven't improved it since he left
yeah,
in
yeah,
2008. And that's
yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah, I
And we
mean,
all know about the leaky roof as well. So if it's leaking on you every Sunday
I
in
mean
a
that's
rainy
I
city
mean
like
that's very
Manchester,
interesting,
it's
right?
not good omen, is it?
Nobody's really talking about that. I mean, all the stuff that Ronaldo said, about Manchester United just seemed to be, coming to fruition. But everyone, I remember back then, everyone really, really went at Ronaldo and all of that. But I mean, it clearly showed. I think for me, I always felt that, player management was going to be a problem for Ten Hag because I think he tried to create problems where there was no problem, with the Ronaldo stuff, and then with the Sancho thing, and then with the Rashford thing. It just seemed like, there was always a fight that he was picking with a player. And if you're going to pick a fight with a player, you need to get the player out, right?
Absolutely.
And if you cannot get the player out, that for me tells me that they did not really 100% support him. Because if you
Mhm.
look at what happened with Arteta, whether it was Ozil, whether it was Aubameyang, Arteta was supported. In fact, they lost money to get rid of players, but they made that quick and they made the decision quick. So it's going to be interesting. I think there are a lot of players in Manchester United that will be thinking to themselves, you know, am I on the chopping board? The likes of Rashford, Casemiro, you're talking about Maguire, who they've tried to get rid of, they've not been able to. Is Zexi, is he the kind of player, for Manchester United? I know he was part of the goal last weekend, but there's a lot of players in that team that you might think maybe their time, has come. Well, we'll see. We'll keep a close eye on that.